Brandi Carlile's SNL performance as a civics lesson and rock anthem. Brandi Carlile's appearance on Saturday Night Live, S47E4 or S51E5, depending on the cycle, was far more than a standard musical guest slot. It was a potent act of political theater rooted in American history. The moment that ignited media coverage and social media discussion was the dramatic, mid-song recitation of Thomas Jefferson's foundational text on religious freedom, transforming her already ferocious rock track, Church and State, into an urgent national commentary. The political and historical text, Thomas Jefferson's enduring proclamation. The text Carlile recited is not Jefferson's famous letter to the Danbury Baptists, which coined the phrase "a wall of separation between church and state," but the legislative precursor that inspired it, the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. The statute's radical significance, 1786. Drafted by Thomas Jefferson and championed by James Madison, the statute was one of the most revolutionary laws passed in post-colonial America. Prior to its passage, Virginia, like many colonies, had an established church, the Church of England, which meant citizens were compelled to support it financially through taxes, regardless of their personal beliefs. The statute changed this landscape, asserting three core principles that Carlile highlighted: freedom of conscience. The preamble opens with the assertion that Almighty God hath created the mind free. This idea established that belief is a private matter between a person and their God, and cannot be coerced by any temporal power. No compelled support. The law explicitly dictated that no man shall be compelled to frequent or support any religious worship, place, or ministry whatsoever. This ended mandatory church taxes and financial assessments, physically and financially separating the church from the state treasury. Protection against discrimination. It ensures citizens cannot be enforced, restrained, molested, or burdened in his body or goods on account of his religious opinions or belief. This established the legal right to hold any faith or none without penalty, a protection Jefferson intended for the Jew, the Gentile, the Christian, the Mahometan, the Hindu, and the infidel of every denomination. The foundation of the First Amendment. The Virginia Statute is widely recognized as the driving force behind the Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, and the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, ratified 1791. By reciting this text, Carlile was invoking the most fundamental, pre-constitutional authority for the separation of government and religious institutions, giving her political message immense historical gravity. The blazing rock song musicality and message. Carlile's choice to embed this historical text within a hard-driving rock track is a critical component of the performance's power. The sound and arrangement. The song Church and State stands out on Carlile's recent albums, leaning into a raw, garage rock sound reminiscent of Neil Young or Joan Jett. The musical structure of the SNL performance was strategically designed for maximum impact, pounding intensity. The track is built on a heavy bassline, driving drums, and searing electric guitar riffs, which immediately convey urgency and anger. The calculated pause. The band reaches a crescendo, and then the music dramatically cuts out entirely. This moment of dead silence on live television forces the massive SNL audience to focus completely on the spoken word. The delivery. Carlile delivers the Jeffersonian text not as poetry, but as a legal, measured proclamation. This stark contrast, the controlled, historical voice interrupting the primal rock scream, highlights the fragility of the principle she is defending. The return. The music explodes back in immediately after the recitation, creating a visceral sense of a declaration being defended and fought for, underscoring the theme of the song, that these core liberties must be actively guarded. Lyrical context. A warning against theocracy. Carlile has described church and state as a primal cry for self-preservation conceived around a time of heightened political tension, often cited as the day after a contentious election. The lyrics blend personal spiritual searching with pointed political critique. The verses often question dogmatic power and the manipulation of faith for political gain. Lines like, "They're not gonna live forever / burn tomorrow, never say / they're here today, then they're gone forever," are interpreted as a scathing critique of current political figures who are perceived as leveraging religion for short-term power, contrasting their fleeting reign with the immortality of the constitutional principle she recites. The SNL platform and cultural reception. The use of the SNL stage amplified the message exponentially, ensuring it broke through the typical news cycle. The venue SNL is watched live by millions and provides one of the largest, most immediate platforms for a cultural statement. The performance turned the typically light-hearted show into a serious arena for civic debate. Critical acclaim. The performance was universally praised by critics and fans for its boldness and intellectual depth. Many in the media acknowledged that the mid-song speech was more impactful than any of tonight's SNL political material, successfully melding entertainment with meaningful advocacy. Re-engagement with civics. By quoting a text that few Americans could identify by name, Carlile forced a renewed interest in the historical context of the First Amendment. The performance essentially re-weaponized a 230-year-old document for a modern political debate, emphasizing that the separation of church and state is not a modern liberal invention, but a core tenet established by the Founding Fathers. In essence, Brandi Carlile did not just sing a song, she staged a constitutional intervention, using the sheer power of rock music to draw a blazing line in the sand where Thomas Jefferson first drew it centuries ago.